Morning, everybody. How we doing? Sam here, United People's TV. It's the 21st of November. It's a Tuesday. We've got football coming up at the weekend. Few days to go. But this week, we're waiting. We're sitting here just patiently waiting for an announcement from Ratcliffe, from Ineos, from Man United, from the Glazers on what's going on with this takeover. And in the least surprising news of just the least surprising news, we're hearing reports of delays. Who could possibly have predicted that might happen? Apart from the fact that it happens in every single thing to do with the Glazers. Every single thing. Problems, delays, complications. To summarize the Glazers' ownership of Manchester United, I'm going to run through the latest from James Ducker from the Telegraph last night, speaking about the Ratcliffe takeover itself, but also in a bit more detail about John Murtough and the suggestion that John Murtough could be staying at Manchester United in a reduced capacity. I'm going to run through what the article says, and we can have a conversation around John Murtough this morning. I'm also then going to speak about injuries and latest on injuries with Luke Shaw, Andrew Onana, Rasmus Hojlund, Christian Eriksen, Johnny Evans. We're going to speak about all of that in the build-up to the game. Then we're going to speak about transfers. We're going to speak about Raphael Varane and Bayern Munich. Anyway, we're going to speak about the latest on Mason Mount, on him coming back, Jadon Sancho's future, Anthony Martial's future. We can speak about all of it. And as always, throughout the entire show, you can let me know what you think in the comments below. Let's have a look who's down here from the member gang. Natasha, good morning to you. Robert, Vinny, Matt, Simon, Off-Key Mania. We've got Maddie there too, Saeed, Matt Bird, Carl. We've got Josh, and I can see you there. We've got Anthony, La Wilson, Kenny, Sword of the Evening. That's a pretty good username. Big fan of that. Dagger of the Afternoon. Blade of the Morning. Yeah, Sword of the Evening is better than those two. Lone Wolf, good morning to you. Who's on Facebook? We've got Robert Donovan, Robert Richbell, Andy, good morning to you. We've got John Pure, Nikolai, Musa, and we've also got Anderson. Good morning to the community around the world, tuning in every morning to hear the latest news on United. Genuinely, thanks for tuning in. I love doing these. I really genuinely do, because I need to do this. But anybody predict there were going to be more delays? Anybody? Yes, absolutely everybody. Just at some point you just go, maybe it's just going to go through on time. No, it never ever does, and it's because everything to do with Manchester United and the ownership structure is so complicated. And I think I've learned that the hard way. You've learned that the hard way. Us trying to get our heads around the Class A structure and the Class B structure and what this person does and what that goes over there. It's not as simple as, how much do you want for it? I've got that money. Here it is. Here's a handshake. Job done. It's peak Glazers. And it really does go some way to explain just why our football club's been in just such disarray. Because that's how they operate as owners. It's so muddy. Everything's a grey area. There's no real clarity of responsibility about who's in charge of what and what should be done here or there. But anyway, tomorrow is the 1 year. It's not the worst anniversary ever. It's been 1 year tomorrow since the statement, the Strategic Investment Alternatives Statement. And Thursday in the USA is Thanksgiving, which is obviously a national holiday. So the whole conversation has been around, can we get it done before Thanksgiving? Can we get it done when it's a year since the statement came out? Now, I'm going to read through this from James Ducker yesterday on John Murtough, but also little bits of information in here on the actual takeover itself and the announcement of the takeover. Remember, it was Mark Kleiman from Sky News who really has been leading with the stories on this and the news on this from the business side of things. Because, this isn't a footballing matter. This is the transfer of a part takeover of a multi-billion-pound global business. It's not a football conversation anymore. It's a business conversation. And we have tried to get our heads around it as a community. and it's driven me up the wall a little bit. I'll be totally honest. I'm going to be so happy once this is all done. Like, we don't have to have any conversations about these rats. I don't need to see that ugly face again. I hope he has raw turkey on Thanksgiving. Sorry. Hope it happens though. Anyway, I'm going to speak about John Murtough and speak about the latest on this takeover, right? Okay, let me run through this and then I'll head down to the comments and see what you're saying about it. Give me a couple of minutes. This is what it says about the takeover here, right? Ratcliffe had hoped to complete a deal by now, but there are no guarantees that it'll be wrapped up before Thanksgiving holidays start in the US on Thursday. And some close to the process fear it could be next week before an announcement is forthcoming. And then next week, we'll hear, well, we said next week. Don't know. Maybe should we just do the week after? And the thing is right, and this is what is massively frustrating for all United fans and also for Ratcliffe, really, because he's now putting this much money into it. He wants to make a success out of it, because we know full well that on top of that, you're going to get the 6 to 8 week process of the fit and proper owners test that Ratcliffe will have to go under to become a 25% owner of Manchester United. That's just standard, okay? But it's going to take 6 to 8 weeks. Therefore, Ratcliffe will not be fully ratified as a board member of Manchester United, and therefore any powers and control he would have won't fully be in place until that 6 to 8 week period is done, and that's going to go over the January transfer window. This January transfer window, I know that so many of us have got sort of in our heads, we've got ambitions and plans about what we would like Manchester United to do. If I was to think about it off the top of my head now, I would love United to, I'll put this down in a proper video nearer the time. I would love to see Jadon Sancho go out on a permanent deal to Saudi Arabia and Man United to get somewhere in the region of 40 to 50 million. Dream world. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying an ideal situation. That would happen. Man United Anthony Martial would leave either on loan or a permanent deal. But if it's on loan, then all of his wages have to be paid. And ideally, it would be a permanent deal. That would be 2 exits I would really want to see happen in January. Harry Maguire, I think, has shown that he can probably do something until the end of the season. And we need a centre-back signing in January, all right? At least one. And I'm not talking about a stopgap. I'm talking about like a Bruno Fernandes style January signing. A player who goes on to be like a really important player for you for some time. That's the centre-back I think we need in January. And probably some sort of stopgap striker. Those 2 in, those 2 out. That's what I don't think that's outside the realms of possibility. Sancho leaving. If the right offer comes in and he doesn't block it, I mean, he might block the move, so we can only loan him. But I would like to see Sancho and Martial leave and the United sign a top-class centre-back and basically a stopgap striker, because we're not going to get the striker that we want to be the backup. I don't think so. To Hojlund in January. I don't think we can afford both. Rob, it might be Todibo. You can look at Tapsoba from Bayer Leverkusen, who we were linked to in the summer, and Leverkusen have gone on to have an absolute scorcher of a season so far under Xabi Alonso. There's a few names you could throw in. But look, Simon, you're asking who my top 3 centre-backs are. We'll leave all that conversation for a little bit further down the line. 21st of November, we've got how many games now? We've got about 8-9 games before the window opens. There's plenty of us. There's plenty of things we've got before we should be really speaking about transfers, including, a takeover. And you sent a super chat there, dude. Thank you very much. What are you saying? Murtough's been enjoying himself and the little trips to Amsterdam to see Ten Hag. Right, let's speak about Murtough now, right? So what I'm going to do for the next couple of minutes, I'm going to run through this article, the main talking points around Murtough, and then we can have a conversation around John Murtough, right? And I want to see what you think about this in the comments. As a community, John Murtough expects to play a part in any transition under Sir Jim Ratcliffe at Manchester United, despite uncertainty over his position as football director. Ratcliffe feels recruitment has been one of the key factors behind United's struggles, and it absolutely has been. All right, we all know that. What is unclear at this stage is whether the potential arrival of an external sporting director could lead specifically to Murtough's departure or a change to his role and responsibility. And look what Murtough's in charge of right now. Overseeing the academy. Well, we've got the head of the academy now, Nick Cox. I don't know whether is he director of the academy? Anyway, he's overlooking the academy and women's setups and the first team and the operations at the club's Carrington base and transfers. Man United have been so good at being bad when it comes to appointments of power. And it's a lot of like cronyism. That's kind of what it's felt like anyway. It's a lot of Richard Arnold was an appointment from within. John Murtough was an appointment from within. Darren Fletcher somehow ended up getting involved in the process of us finding managers. It's kind of like jobs for the boys rather than who they should be. Now, what I want to say here quickly, I don't know whether this is going to be like a popular opinion or not. John Murtough's done some actual genuine good at Manchester United since he joined the club. So I was doing a bit of reading this morning. Do you know who recommended John Murtough to Manchester United and why he was brought into the club? Have a guess. See if you can guess who it was or when it was, or both, I suppose, at the same time. I'll be interested because it's actually the same person that recommended. No, actually, it wasn't. Was it him? No. Well, anyway, I'm going to see what you're saying down here in the comments. Josh, you're saying Ed Woodward. Chris, you're saying Fergie. Both incorrect. Stu, you're right. You're the first person down there. It was David Moyes. David Moyes recommended John Murtough from Everton, from his time at Everton, and he came across. And then John Murtough recommended Steve Brown from Everton, from his time at Everton. And Steve Brown right now is our head of recruitment. I didn't realise how much Everton there still sort of is in the running of Manchester United. You've got John Murtough as our director of football, and you've got Steve Brown as our head of recruitment, both whose previous clubs were Everton. Don't know. I found that interesting this morning. But John Murtough, right? Someone's asking, I don't know who it was then, and it might have been you, saying, what's his specialty or what's he done that's actually been good? Something that John Murtough really has helped oversee at this football club is a massive improvement in our academy. And if I was to sort of cherry pick what I think that he has done that has been good and beneficial, it has been that. Man United's academy, I think this is back when I think it was Brian McClare was he the director of the academy, and that was when Nicky Butt was involved in it. That's when it starts to change around. I think it was when Paul McGuinness was the manager, and that's when he left. And Man United's academy at that point, it was just we lost all momentum. Man City was the place to go. All the local youngsters would be going there. We didn't have the ability to really recruit talented foreign youngsters either. But over the last 5-6 years or so, the Garnacho example is going to be a standout. Hannibal is another example too. Man United's academy recruitment has improved considerably. And our academy now, the fact that we won the FA Youth Cup, right? That is the perfect example of our academy improving. And there's been widespread changes, widespread changes that are still happening. So if I'm gonna, my point here, right, is not everything that John Murtough has done at this club has been bad news for this club. But John Murtough now, in his role, and it's the perfect example of just Manchester United just doing it wrong. Somehow turning a person who actually had positive influence on the club, then giving him more responsibilities, and then him ballsing it all up. Because John Murtough has not been successful in his current role as director of football. He was successful in something that he did previously. And I remember saying this at the time, right? I go back to my top 5 things that Jim Ratcliffe needs to do when he comes in, and sack Richard Arnold was number 4. I wouldn't be surprised if John Murtough, and I suppose, look, it would depend on whether he would actually want to do it when you think about it, because he would have to accept a demotion, quite a severe demotion, if he was to stay at the club, and maybe out of a sense of pride, he wouldn't want to do that. Maybe he'd want to go somewhere else and sort of start again. That could well happen. But I wouldn't be surprised to see John Murtough stay in a reduced capacity. Now, whether that would be going back to what he was doing with the academy before and working with Nick Cox, maybe. But I'm not surprised to hear that he could stay at the club sort of from a transitional perspective down there. John Murtough expects to play a part in any transition under Sir Jim Ratcliffe, despite uncertainty over his position as football director. Because this isn't a position, in my opinion, I'm going to read your comments out down here in a sec. This isn't a position that you can boot out as easily as Richard Arnold. Adding the fact that Richard Arnold was basically, his relationship with Joel Glazer had disappeared, probably not disapparated, had massively frayed. Adding the fact that he's spectacularly ballsed up handling the Greenwood case. There's so many different factors and reasons why Richard Arnold's exit felt a lot easier and cleaner. His responsibilities have simply been put down and passed on to Patrick Stewart. We can't do that with John Murtough. Now, I'm not saying that John Murtough is doing his job properly, because I don't think he is. I think this is exactly why we're going to be getting someone like Paul Mitchell. However, it's not as easy just to boot him out the club without having a replacement. It's like firing somebody before you've hired someone, or at least know who you're going to hire. In typical business, it's a dangerous thing to do. So there will be a transition period where John Murtough stays at the club, and I'm not surprised about that. I think, well, I predicted it. It felt obvious, but it's not to say he's going to stay in the long term. So I want you to let me know in the comments below. Do you see John Murtough leaving the club completely, or do you see maybe John Murtough and his role being restructured with reduced responsibilities, maybe back down towards what he was doing best with our academy? And what would he actually want to do himself? And I'm going to go down here and see what you're saying down here. Murtough is a classic example of incompetent leaders over promoting a decent employee. They've set him up to fail. And dude, Nick, that's a really, in my opinion, that's an absolutely spot on comment. John Murtough was never, of course we hoped he would be. Like, geez, we're football fans. Every year, doesn't matter what we did the year before, we go in with a new, renewed sense of hope and optimism that this could be better and different than it was last year. And that's what we all felt and hoped when John Murtough was brought in as our club's first football director, because we're like, right, finally, United are stepping in to the modern structure of a football club. But yeah, it's over promotion from within. And the reason that they're doing that is from a safety perspective, because the Glazers can't lose that much control if they just keep promoting from within, because then they know the people that they have there, right? Murtough was brought in and he worked under Woodward originally. And then the Glazers knew that they could control John Murtough. They knew full well that bringing in someone like Paul Mitchell or bringing in someone like Ralph Rangnick would have been basically wouldn't have been a coup, but it would have been, I suppose, a risk to them and their power, and that's why they didn't do it. Callum, you're saying, I guess it depends on whether he thinks he can get a similar role elsewhere. I think he was linked previously. I'm trying to think of the previous jobs he was linked with. Might be like the English football board. I don't know. I don't know whether his pride would stop him accepting basically a demotion. Because that's the only way that John Murtough, in my opinion, the only way John Murtough stays at Manchester United is if he does accept a demotion. There's no way that he's going to keep that job and that role under Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos, right? Jean-Claude Blanc's come in. We are going to get a new sporting director. Whether that's Paul Mitchell, whether that's Andre Berta, whether that's Paolo Maldini, Rico Massara, Dougie Freedman, all the names that have been linked, right? I don't know which one it's going to be. You know who my favorite is, but I don't know who it's going to be. But there's no way that John Murtough stays in the same capacity. It's whether he does that, get that reduced role. Lyle, you say you see him leaving. It'll be a step down career-wise just to sit there in a reduced role. Perhaps he would go into a smaller club and be a leader there. Maybe go back to Everton. And you're saying I'll be surprised if Jim Ratcliffe doesn't want an entirely hand-picked team. I mean, that won't really. I don't think that's really going to be up to Jim Ratcliffe. It's going to be up to Dave Brailsford. Dave Brailsford will be the man that really chooses who comes in and where. Jim Ratcliffe will have to sign off on it, but Jim Ratcliffe trusts Dave Brailsford's judgment, and he'll need to try. Yeah. So, of course, I think he will, and that's why I think that John Murtough doesn't really have a chance of surviving in his current capacity. But because of what he has done previously with the academy, I think maybe this is a bad sort of maybe this is a bad comparison. I'm going to do it anyway. When Solskjaer was sacked and Kieran McKenna left, Michael Carrick left, there's a lot of United fans that would have had you believe that both of them were absolutely trash. Weren't even slightly good as managers. They'll never get a job anywhere else again. Whereas Kieran McKenna went to League One with Ipswich, got them promoted to the Championship, and where are they in the Championship now? Are they second? They are second, joint top with Leicester after 16 games in one of the most. The Championship is such a ridiculously difficult league. Kieran McKenna doing very well. Michael Carrick, what is it? 3 games? Was it 3 games interim? Didn't lose. Then went to Middlesbrough. Got to the playoffs, lost in the playoffs, but both of them very good managers, right? John Murtough is a very bad director of football. But there may well be a position for him in United in a reduced or just different capacity. Because when you've got somebody, anybody really, honestly, right? And I this might sound wrong. I don't know how it's going to come out. But I think that Paul Mitchell would struggle at Manchester United if he was tasked with, let me pull it up here. If Paul Mitchell came into this club, right, and we said to him, he goes, right, okay, Paul, so you're going to be head of recruitment at United, but also at the same time, can you oversee the academy? The women's team as well. Can you make sure that all the operations at Carrington are all running at the same time as making sure that recruitment at a youth level and a first team level are spot on? Is that right? I'm telling you, Paul Mitchell would struggle. It's like spinning 400 plates. You can't do that. You need delegation. You need a team to be able to achieve that, to have the sort of focus and success in every single element of that. I think we've now got a director of football for the women's team, don't we? I swear we appointed one. Lee Bancroft, head of women's football. So we have got one, but you get the point. My point here is that anybody would fail in a position where they're just tasked with doing too much and they can't have any focus on any particular point in time. Like if you look at the recruitment, we've modernized a lot in terms of the data that we're using, but a big problem about that is that we do have, like, I think it's got a head of data science actually. What was his name? There's somebody we brought in, but we've got all these systems in place, but people are like, I don't really know what to do with this. It's all this data here. I don't actually know what to do with it. And you're down there. United are still stuck. It's because of the Glazers, but we still have never came out of that club model of the overseer manager. That's Fergie. I've told you this a million times. I absolutely stand by it. Fergie would not be a successful manager in this modern culture and modern era of football. His style of management just would not have worked. His sort of authoritarian approach, it created such a strong unit. But the influence of players now and the growth of social media would have completely undermined Fergie. And he would have hated it. He would have banned it, and then players would have just gone, well, sod that, I'm not playing for you. It's just football's changed. Football's changed. And unfortunately, our football club has not changed. But it is changing. And the thing I want to speak about now quickly, before we speak about the injuries, is I did my video yesterday. Now, this was not a definitive. This is the structure of Manchester United video, right? This is my interpretation of everything that we've been told so far, looking at our current club structure and me going, what do I think it's going to look like? And that's where I come up with this. I drew my own little org chart. Everyone loves an org chart, don't they? I did one recently for United People's TV. It was really satisfying. But this is what I came up with. And, well, there's a lot of changes. If you look at the... Let me pull up the current org chart. Man United org chart. A comparison. Right there? No. Should probably have pulled this on up, really. That looks about right. Okay. So, this is the current one, right? So we've got John Glazer at the top there, Richard Arnold, who, well, current-ish. He's been booted out. John Murtough there, same level as Ten Hag. All the staff under Ten Hag, Justin Cochrane, linked back to the academy. Andy O'Boyle underneath John Murtough with Darren Fletcher. Right. So that's what the current structure was. And spoiler alert, current structure doesn't work. That structure will be changed, right? And that's where I came up with this. I want you to let me know what you think about it in the comments below, because there's a lot of changes. There's a far clearer chain of command inside this structure here. Joel Glazer and Jim Ratcliffe as the sort of owners at the top, and Dave Brailsford as the man in between. There's your football committee there. Those three men at the top. Dave Brailsford, in my opinion, will be the man sort of... he'll be the man in charge with kind of all the I actually think Dave Brailsford is going to have far more of a role in this than I think he has had in previous Ineos projects. Obviously, the Ineos Grenadiers with a cycling team, and he was a team principal because he was there at Sky, and then he carried over. And he was brought in to Nice to help with the restructure of that club. I think that Dave Brailsford is going to really actually end up being far more involved in United than he has been in previous things that Ineos have done. He's there above Jean-Claude Blanc's going to be... I laid it out there like Dave Brailsford's going to be the process man. He's going to make sure that all the wheels are turning. He's going to make sure if somebody's not able to do their job properly, what problems are you having? And he'll fix those problems. Jean-Claude Blanc is going to be the man in charge of the vision. So every decision that Paul Mitchell wants to go out and try and sign Antoine Griezmann. He won't. Paul Mitchell wants to go out and sign a player. He will make sure that that player fits the vision of Manchester United. He'll make sure that every single decision is in line with the vision of where this United team wants to be in 3-5 years' time. And I know that this org chart isn't laid out particularly well because it kind of should be like a top-down thing, but there was too many bloody names for me to get inside that inside that sheet there. So I had to go a little bit upwards. But I know it's quite sad. I'm really genuinely excited about these changes in particular, because I'm so ridiculously aware that without these changes, I swear on my life, we're never winning the Premier League again. Ever. Clubs around us are too slick. Yes, pun intended. Clubs around us, they're too strong now. They've modernized where we haven't. And the only way that we get towards winning the Premier League again is with a proper footballing structure. So some people might find it boring, and I can understand that. This is a football club. All I want to do is talk about football. All I want to talk about is who's putting the ball in the back of net. Are we winning, yes or no? But these here, these are the changes. That this is like if in 20, 30 years' time, hopefully when we look back on this as United fans, and we can say, oh, you remember when that Ineos takeover started? You remember when all these changes happened? Oh, you remember like what happened in a few years after that? And the success that started coming back to United. That's what I'm hoping that we've got ahead of us. Seeley, you're saying Darren Fletcher's role is obsolete. That's why I've got him up here. Honestly, I couldn't put him anywhere. Somebody asked down there in the comment, what's the difference between a technical director and a sporting director? Hey, dude, yeah, good luck trying to define that. I don't think anybody can define that. Because Darren Fletcher was kind of just given a random position of, he worked underneath, well, it wasn't Paul Mitchell, but he worked underneath John Murtough, kind of in some sort of technical director, coach, hybrid job where he was on the pitch with Ralph Rangnick and then in the boardroom interviewing new managers. And you're thinking, It was a proper mismatch. It was like putting two odd socks. That's what Darren Fletcher's role at the club has been. If, again, you reduce Darren Fletcher down into like, in my opinion, I don't know whether he want to do it or not, but he'd be an incredible academy coach. Like learning from Darren Fletcher as a footballer would be amazing for Man United's youngsters. I don't know whether that's ambitious enough for what Darren Fletcher wants to do. But yeah, his role's pretty obsolete. And I've got Mick Court and Simon Wells over there. You've had Jim Lawler and Marcel Bout before, who were two scouts. They got booted out when the Ralph Rangnick transition happened. Mick Court and Simon Wells, they could well be booted out as well. And then Paul Mitchell bringing in all of his own scouts. That could happen. But so this org structure is not completely finished. All right. Schumer saying technical director manages the staff. You really think Darren Fletcher's in charge of any staff at Manchester United? Nah. No, I don't think he is. Won't believe it all until it happens. Yeah, true enough. True enough. Oh, Brambino, is that true? Oh, I might have got that wrong, actually. Justin Cochrane, Brentford. Did he go to Brentford? He did, actually. I forgot about that. Yeah. Apologies about that. That's a really good point. Thank you very much for pointing that one out. Damn, that was a big one mistake in my video yesterday. Forgot about that. Anyway, as I said, this structure here is not completely finalized in any way, shape, or form. That's a mistake I've made there, right? I can't wait to get more clarity on this. This, for me, is the core of where these changes are coming. But let's go back to, I say go back, go forward. Let's start speaking about the actual football, all right? Half an hour into the show. Give me like 10, 15 minutes. If you can, drop a like on the video. As I said, love doing these shows every morning. Let's speak about what's coming here from a footballing capacity, all right? Because the suggestion is that Andre Onana is hopeful being fit to face Everton. I'm going to run through the injury news here from ESPN on all of our players. A source has said that Onana is hopeful of being fit for the game at Goodison Park because it wasn't a muscle strain. If you saw the injury for Onana, I think it was like a shoulder problem. I think he actually kind of went for a save and then just kind of landed a bit awkwardly. But the suggestion here is that he's hopeful of being fit. Of course, if he isn't fit, then we're going to see Bayindir make his debut, which is going to be a hell of a week to do so. Because Galatasaray is coming up midweek. And I'm not looking forward to it. Are you? No, I don't think you are either. This is why so many fans were kind of frustrated that Ten Hag didn't give Bayindir his debut against Crystal Palace at Old Trafford. Well, that was a game I thought if he was going to play, he should probably have played there, but he didn't. So if Bayindir does make his debut for Manchester United this week, then you're going to see Bayindir make his debuts at Goodison Park in their first game after being docked 10 points. And then away at Galatasaray. Now, of course, he played for Fenerbahce. So if he's in goal at Galatasaray, he is going to get, well, yeah, prepare yourself for the abuse you're going to get there. I'm pretty sure he knows what to expect. But the suggestion is that Andre Onana is hopeful of being fit. And in terms of some other news down there, you can see them. We've highlighted it all. Luke Shaw and Hojlund Malacia are both nearing comebacks. Rasmus Hojlund and Christian Eriksen are both expected to be out of the game. Certainly Christian Eriksen is, but Rasmus Hojlund too, and Johnny Evans. But that one right there is a oh God. I'll ask you in the comments actually. In fact, should we do a poll today? Let's have a little poll. We haven't had a poll in a while. I think this is a curious question. I know what my answer would be, but I don't think it's guaranteed that you will agree with me. Start a poll. Which player have United missed more this season? Shaw or Martinez? Right. And I'm asking that question if both players are completely fit and ready. Which one of those two players do you think we've missed the most? Luke Shaw or Lisandro Martinez? My instinct straight away would probably say Martinez, because he plays in a more central role, therefore he can affect more of the game. And he's also our leader. He's so important, but at the same time, Luke Shaw has been so ridiculously important for United. Look at that. I can see down there, right? It's 150 votes flying in straight away. And it is 50-50. Absolutely straight down the middle. 50-50. Now, truth be told, I don't even know if Luke Shaw, when he comes back, is going to actually come back as a left back. Because I think there is a real distinct possibility he comes in as a left centre back. And especially if Tyrone Malacia is fit, well, even if he isn't fit, as long as you've got Delo fit and Wan-Bissaka fit, then there's going to be two fullbacks that Ten Hag would use. And you may well see Manchester United then go for a back four of Delo, then Luke Shaw. Harry Maguire, I presume, would keep his place. And then Wan-Bissaka. I'm going to see what you're saying down here. Shaw has been a rock at both left back and centre back. Guided Bread Man, you're saying Martinez. And you're talking about the standards that Martinez set in aggression. Jeez. Oh, that guy. Shaw any day, says Black 777. Shaw, we've missed the crosses that he makes. It's a hard one, says Val. Really miss Shaw, would miss Shaw just over Martin. Honestly, it's a really tough one. That's why I can understand down there. Let me see. So we've got 250 votes in there, and it's 52% for Martinez. Either way, geez, Sergio Reguilon. Forgot we bloody even signed him. I just keep talking about Diogo Dalot and Wan-Bissaka. Yeah. If Reguilon's fit, you're going to be playing him at left back and Luke Shaw at left centre back, aren't you? Surely. Then you've got the passing angles. You've got naturally left-footed players playing in those positions. I hope Luke Shaw's fit. But again, mate, if you bring Luke Shaw back, right? And the first 3 games in the week that he comes back are Goodison Park, Everton, first game after they've been docked 10 points, Galatasaray away in a must-win Champions League game or out the Champions League, and then St James's Park on a Saturday night at 8 p.m. Damn. I mean, he won't be able to play all 3 of those games, 90 minutes. Luke Shaw strikes me Well, I think we've seen that in his physique. He's a bit like Rooney. Weight goes on easy for Luke Shaw. It's not necessarily he's sitting there chomping everything, but weight goes on easy, and it's quite hard to get it off. When it comes off, you look like a bloody unit. I hope Luke Shaw is fit, man. Johnny Evans is going to be injured and not playing. Is Reguilon fit? I think he is. I haven't heard anything about him not being fit. I don't know. But having Luke Shaw back is that's going to make such a big difference. I hope. Touch wood. All right, touch wood. I hope it's going to make a big difference for us from now until January. We can probably, I think we can reasonably expect, this is going to be quite sad to say, but it's probably around about the truth. I don't think we can expect Martinez to be back at the levels and the aggression, the fitness that we want Martinez to be back at, probably until February. I think Martinez will probably be available after Christmas, probably be available at some point in January, but I think it's going to take him time. And what we did last time was we rushed Martinez back, and once bitten, twice shy. We're not going to make the same mistake. I imagine we're going to delay Martinez's return by a few weeks just to really make sure he's fit. Rob Taylor saying, any news on Mainoo's fitness? Yes, I'm pretty sure that Mainoo captained Manchester United's under-19s. Manchester United? I mean, England under-19s during the international break. Pretty sure he's completely fit. He's been, and again, Man United, I think the Mainoo example is pretty good, actually. We were told that Mainoo was sort of back and fit. He was on the bench against City? Was he on the bench against City? I don't know. But he's been slowly reintroduced. Not really been playing in the first team. Actually went down and played with the under-19s, in the UEFA Youth League. His game time so far has been managed. So it should mean that when Mainoo comes back in, and he will come back in at this point now, between now and January, Kobbie Mainoo's going to be part of this team. And it should mean that he's more robust and ready for it, rather than being on the edge. Because I think United have surely learned our mistakes post Lisandro Martinez in bringing a player back too early. It's just not worth the risk, right? Someone down there saying I've missed some super chats. What's going down here? There's one there. What about the debt? Will it go into Ineos? Dude, we don't have any answers around that at this moment in time. There is no, with the original Ineos offer to buy 69% of United, to buy all the Glazers shares, we were told that they were looking at funding the purchase by JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs. And I believe that the debt was going to get bought by Ineos, paid off by Ineos with a loan from there, and that loan would then be taken off United's books, and it would go onto Ineos's books and then be serviced by Ineos instead of Manchester United. So the debt wouldn't come as part of our, club. Let's find out. Anyway, let's speak about it. Last 10 minutes of the show. Let's whiz through some transfer news, all right? Or just some transfer conversations. Let's quickly check on this poll, actually. I think it's really quite interesting if it is close. Yeah, it is. 330 votes, right? And it is bang on 50%. 50-50 right now. In terms of which player, I actually misspelt which. Sack me. Which player have United missed more this season? Honestly, YouTube, YouTube is so crap. Why is it that mods don't have the power to properly engage with community? Why is it that the mods aren't allowed to do polls and do stuff? Why has it got to be the person who's also recording, switching all the screens, and doing about 400 things at once? Why has that person got to be in charge of doing the polls? Come on. Be better, YouTube. Be better. But let's speak about this, right? Fabrizio Romano saying yesterday that Martial could leave if there was a good offer in January. I cannot believe, or I can, I don't quite know. I cannot believe that this dude is still a Manchester United player. I really, really can't. It's staggering incompetence from our. I don't blame him. I do not blame him. But it's It's why is he still at our club? I mean, I know why he's still at our club. He's on an absolute mega contract, and no one in the right mind is going to be paying 250 grand a week for Anthony Martial, unless he names Manchester United. If a good offer comes in, okie dokie. I mean, I could basically say that what Fabrizio Romano said there yesterday. I just hope that a good offer comes in, man. I would much rather, and I probably wouldn't. This is probably wrong, actually, because we could. But anytime I've seen Martial come into this team when I'm like, really? It's a real shame. Last two preseasons, I've let myself, maybe this time, both bloody preseasons. I thought Martial might be coming back, and then it's just never happened. It's just like, just leave, man. Please just leave. Now, I want to know what you think about this, actually. Raphael Varane, stories coming out of Sky Sports Germany saying that Bayern Munich are having a little conversation saying, what do you reckon? Raphael Varane? Price valuation 20 to 30 mil. Loan's not an option. Salary is mega. God, I can't wait until the salaries are just salaries at this club, man. So painful. I mean, it's what we've had to do because we haven't been challenging for titles for so long. The only way that we could, well, it wasn't the only way, but it was a surefire way of getting players in. It's just, just offer them a bit more money. I love Rafa Varane, man. But anybody who watched football and watched United, myself included, went into the summer with concerns over Rafa Varane. Not because he wasn't good enough, but because his body was saying no. And his body has continued to say no this season. And none of us are surprised about it. It's mega frustrating, man, because last season, Varane and Martinez, when they were fit, look, things felt right. I mean, you can't build any sort of successful football team if your two centre-backs are A, changing every single week, and B, your best two centre-backs aren't fit and bloody available. It's just not possible. I would definitely sell Varane. I would definitely sell Casemiro if Manchester United replaced accordingly. I don't think that's possible in January. So I don't think either of them are going to be going in January. I do think both of them, in an ideal world, I would definitely replace Varane and Casemiro next summer with two. Actually, I wouldn't really say similar sort of profile players either. I think I would just replace them with the younger models. Football's so intense. It is. I've said this so many times. Like you have to have a shredded six-pack to be a footballer now at the top level. You've got to be a hashtag athlete, and it is a young man's game. You know, previously they always said that the peak of a footballer professionally was between the ages of 26 to 29. I don't know whether that over the next few years that those numbers are going to kind of drop a little bit. Like the peak of a footballer maybe comes between, don't know, 24, 27, 25, 28. Because it feels like footballers like Erling Haaland is a really good example of just how good footballers are getting at a younger age. Speaking of footballers who are good at a younger age, yeah, this man here, like football is it's so fast. It's so. John, you're saying it depends on the player's position. Absolutely, footballers still can, but a goalkeeper now, you need to have that burst off your line to cover a 20-yard gap when your team's playing with a high line. You can't just be a static. You can't just be a static goalkeeper anymore. Therefore, you need that acceleration in your legs. Therefore, you need to be younger. It's turning into everything's just faster. The turnovers in players are faster. And the careers aren't as long. Ronaldo has more years. Yeah. If you want to go play in Saudi Arabia, which is basically like League 2. Haaland's an elite finisher. He isn't a really good footballer. Dude. Scored like, how many goals did he score last year? How many trophies did he win last year? I couldn't give a crap. He's a ridiculous goal scorer. Who cares what else he does? Who cares? And I'd love to try and pick holes in Haaland's game. But I'm not going to try. Guy's going to break every single goal scoring record. Oh yeah, but he couldn't do a step over. I really don't think he's going to care. Right? Anyway, yeah, footballers. My point here is that footballers is a younger man's game, and while on paper the age of 30, my God, Varane's still got years left. I think that no, I don't think he does. Right? I don't think he does. I think the same concerns I've got now about Rafa Varane, I had about Rafa Varane during the summer, and unfortunately, they've all been proven correct. Sarch, you're amazingly jealous, Sam. Don't envy his success. Who are you talking about? Haaland? What, the one I'm complimenting? Ronaldo? Oh man, Ronaldo stands. I have to. Have a little round of applause here for Ronaldo stands, because they are. It's basically like cult-like, really. Ronaldo stands. Remember all the arguments we had here when I was. I suppose I went a little bit earlier than other people. And then he came out with that statement. Oh yeah, but look, Ronaldo came out and he said something against the Glazers. Oh yeah, he actually loves the club. Yeah. Oh, I love Ronaldo. Yeah. Get over yourself, man. Anyway, at least he's second in the Saudi league right now. Get that sweet trophy. But yeah, Jadon Sancho. The reason I pulled up a picture of Jadon Sancho here was because, look, it's from the Telegraph saying, look, we know full well who's linked with Jadon Sancho. Juve's linked with him, Borussia Dortmund, a move to Saudi Arabia as well. His preference there is to stay in Europe at this stage in his career, and we might find ourselves in a similar situation to Harry Maguire when we wanted to ship him off to West Ham, and he kind of didn't want to go there, didn't want to do it with a wage reduction, ended up kind of blocking the transfer. We might find that situation comes around with Jadon Sancho. Because again, same thing that Jadon Sancho, Varane, Martial, Casemiro. It's not because none of these players would have any sort of value at another football team. It's the fact that all of them are on insane wages. Sancho's on like north of 250. Varane, I'm pretty sure, is on north of 250. Casemiro's definitely on north of 250. Martial is on 250. And we've got 4 players here who I don't think really have long-term future at the club. And we can't. I think I really, really hope that Casemiro, that a role can be defined, that our football style can be defined, and he can find his place in it, because he was so good last season. But there's definitely no place for Sancho. I don't think Varane will be here come the end of next summer. Oh, wrong one. Martial should have gone about 3 years ago. He's still here. I think Mason Mount will be here, but I don't really know in what capacity. I think this will be my last talking point for the day. I don't really like the headline saying, "Oh, Mason Mount's got a chance to reignite his United career." Well, being totally honest, dude, like his United career is yet to get started. And injuries didn't help him. Like was it his second game he got injured? Third game he got injured? He was out for like 5 weeks. Really unfortunate for him. It's never got started. And by the time when he came back, the style that he was training for and with all pre-season, we switched away from it. Ten Hag switched away from it. I don't. If we'd had a director of football with a proper vision, I think I've said this in the summer, and I've said it a few times actually. I think you would have seen Manchester United spend £60 million on a player like Yves Bissouma or Amadou Onana or some like a physically dominant that position for me. It's probably the most important in this current state of modern football. I'm not sure where football's going to be if you look at where football was 3 years ago in the Premier League compared to what it is now, it's changed. So Man United need to have the vision of where's football going to be in 3 years' time? How can we build a squad towards that? Because if we were to just focus on building a squad for now, then in 2 years' time, we might find ourselves going, crap, done it again. Now our squad's a little bit behind where football's gone and going. It feels like football is just continuing to go down the more powerful physical route. I'm not saying like Sam Allardyce, knock it long ball. I'm talking about just physically dominant ball carriers. Like, come get the ball off me. I'm going to run 15 yards down a pitch, and you are going to be able to do sweet FA about it because my close control is good. My physical strength is so good. You can't knock me off the ball. I'm too fast. I'm too technical. You can't get the ball off me. And he can't get it off me. Fine, I'll pass it to him. And he'll do the exact same. Ball carriers everywhere. That's what United need. And I think if United were really smart in the summer, then you would have seen United spend 60 mil on that player. And then on transfer deadline day, we would have looked for someone like a Mason Mount type profile, another number 8, another sort of aggressive pressing attacking player, rather than the other way around. Because we were scrapping for Amrabat on deadline day, and Amrabat, Ten Hag's he's started Eriksen. He's completely overlooked Amrabat. Project ball carrier. Yeah, well, that's definitely. We don't need one of them, ladies and gents. We need multiples. Who would you say is the best ball carrier we've got in our squad? Good question, actually. I'm going to finish that. Kobbie Mainoo is somebody who definitely does that. He kind of has done throughout his whole academy career. I'm trying to think inside this current squad. Let's have a quick look. Pull this up. A little question. What's the poll saying? Let's have a look. We've got 540 votes. 51% of you are saying Martinez is the biggest miss for us this season, and 49% are saying Shaw. That's how close it is. But let's pull this up for the last little conversation today, because I think this really is where football's going, man. Who's the best ball carrier in this team? Let's have a look. Eriksen, but he's 100 years old. Again, I wouldn't ever really define Christian Eriksen as a ball carrier. Eriksen, even at his pomp and his peak, was that he had a killer pass. He was so good at finding that pass. He's a playmaker. He's more an old school style playmaker. I don't think he's a ball carrier. AJ, you're saying Scott McTominay. Yeah, Scott McTominay is a ball carrier. Yeah, to-ish. But it's kind of not really his game. If you're going to be looking at... In fact, I'm going to take that back. Scott McTominay is not a ball carrier. He is the person who arrives on the edge of the box when someone else has carried the ball forward, and his task is to finish. Bruno Fernandes is not a ball carrier. Is anybody down there saying Bruno Fernandes? But honestly, like, we are missing that key player in modern football. Because football, you just have to look at the The evolution of, unfortunately, the evolution of Guardiola's team. Few years, was it 3 years ago, you would have absolutely called Pep Guardiola a tiki-taka football coach. That's how he played football. Possession, triangles, moving it around, constant movement, can't get the ball off us, create goals that way. Whereas City's team and Pep's team have developed over the last few years, and now they just have such physically dominant players, and they have people that can bring the ball 10, 15 yards up the pitch. And that it's not just about triangles anymore. It's about bringing the ball up the pitch with someone with the ball at his feet for 10 yards. That's it. Really, really hurts. Still, that we didn't sign Frankie De Jong. Like I don't think I can understate how much different our team would look, how much different everything would have been for De Jong. So it's not as if Erik ten Hag didn't notice this, right? It's not as if Erik ten Hag didn't go after him, but it's the fact that we didn't have an alternative. Josh, you're down there saying Harry Maguire. Probably right, isn't it? My point here is that we are scraping the barrel, no matter where we're looking, right? No matter where we are looking. John, you're saying De Jong's not physically dominant. Yeah, he's not, but he is a ball. But he's so. It's a bit like Frankie De Jong's a bit like Lisandro Martinez, right? He might be small, and you go, he can't be a centre back. But no, he can very much be a centre back because he's got awareness and he's 2 steps ahead. So height isn't really an issue when you have that awareness and you can position yourself properly. You can get the yard and the step ahead. It's like Frankie De Jong. It doesn't really matter that he's not physically dominant because no one can ever really get near him. He's always 2 yards in space. That's what made him so good. But hey, we're never going to get him. I just hope that we find, and maybe we won't really go after someone like him now. But my word, we need like 2 proper ball carriers in that midfield, and a lot would change in our team. But look, anyway, thanks for joining in today. Let's see what the poll's saying at the end. We've got 600 votes, and it is straight up 50-50 between whether we've missed Shaw and Martinez more. Shaw, hopefully, will be back. He'll be back at some point in the next few games. We just don't know when. And I don't know whether I'd start him or what position I'd even start him. But look, thank you all for tuning in today. I enjoyed that. It's good and engaging. Today's lunchtime video, I think, might be around the interview that Nice's manager Farioli gave about Ratcliffe, because it actually gave some genuine insight into what we could expect from Ratcliffe's involvement in the project and whether it's a positive or a negative thing. Because they're brand new comments, and you might say, we can't listen to anything he's saying. He's employed by him. He's not going to say anything negative. Sure. But things, and people might not want to admit it because they wanted Qatar and Qatar only. But things have changed at Nice over these last 18 months in a really positive sense. And a lot of the mistakes that Ineos have made, they've corrected. Hence why Nice are joint top of League One. And they're currently one of only 3 teams in Europe's top 5 leagues who are undefeated, alongside Bayer Leverkusen and Bayern Munich. Not bad. I'm going to run through it. I think I'll run through that interview for today's lunchtime video. Thank you all for tuning in. If you can, just take 1 sec, drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. 623 votes, 51% of you saying Martinez, we missed more. And I agree with you. I'm in the 51%. Take it easy.